Our United Way Spotlight of the Week is on the Seniors Food Box, and I'm joined by Helen Mabberly. Hi, Helen. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well. Thank you for having me today.
My pleasure. So we've talked before. In fact, it was way back when this pandemic just first started. And so you supply food boxes to pretty much shut-in seniors who didn't want to go outside and get nutritious food for themselves. Have I kind of summed it up?
You summed it up very well. I mean, when the pandemic hit, we were all told to shelter in place. And our local United Way was getting a lot of phone calls from seniors who were really struggling to get food in during the pandemic. Tons of calls every day. So they called us and said, we have a food box program where we give out fresh produce, and they said, can you pivot that and help some of our seniors? So we created the food box. It has dry goods and fresh produce in it. And we thought we'd deliver to 200 seniors monthly, and the need spiraled, and we're delivering to 400 seniors a month.
Wow, and that is continuing.
Yes, it's continuing. And the need, we've realized, is more than just a pandemic response. We have a lot of seniors in our community that are truly struggling to make ends meet, and also many have mobility issues. We recently did a survey, and 66% of our folks have some kind of medical reason, whether that's arthritis, whether that's COPD, that makes getting out to a grocery store and shopping for themselves a real challenge.
And if you live in an apartment, and they always talk about moving into an apartment, what an ideal life for seniors, but if you live at the end of a hall, you have to somehow make your way to an elevator, down another hall. It is not convenient. It is not easy if you have mobility issues.
Oh, for sure. And that's if you have an elevator. I delivered to one woman, and I had to go up 22 stairs to get to her floor. And it was incredibly difficult. I mean, I'm carrying big bags of groceries to get them up to her. I couldn't imagine how some of our seniors are able to do that. So we've really realized just how difficult it is for some of our seniors in the community to actually access food.
And what would be in a typical box? Does everyone get the same box, or is there a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they get the same box unless there are some dietary restrictions. We do have a few that are gluten-free and a few that we're careful of with diabetes content, but mostly gluten-free. So it's a variety of fresh produce. It does change a little bit each month. Thanks to our supporters, Diodato, we buy the produce in bulk, and then our volunteers break it down into orders. So depending on what is affordable that month, we switch it up a little bit, but generally there's about 8 to 10 fresh produce items. And then we partner with our friends over at Grand Snow Frills, again, getting bulk discounts and great prices. And we put in an assortment of dry goods. So there may be pasta, rice. We try to make sure that there is some proteins in there. Everything is non-perishable because we don't have refrigerated trucks. So there could be tuna, peanut butter, various things like that. And again, about 8 to 10 items in the dry goods that go out monthly.
Do you find, like, we came from a generation where we knew how to cook. We didn't do a whole lot of processed food. For the most part, I remember we couldn't afford to buy processed food. Do you think that people need help putting recipes together, bulk baking and things like that? Is that something, or are you dealing with a generation where that isn't really an issue?
Well, I mean, everybody can always use the help with a few new recipes, that's for sure, right? But I would say that our seniors are pretty good. I mean, they know the recipes. Some of the families in our other programs that we have for food certainly need more of the recipe and that kind of support. What we do find, though, that's very important is just getting fresh produce, because getting to the grocery store is tough, and fresh produce only lasts so long. It's not uncommon for my drivers to come back and say, the senior said today that's the only fresh produce they've had in this month. So because getting out and getting fresh produce is difficult. So the produce piece is really important. And of course, from a health perspective, it's very important to have those fresh fruits and vegetables.
It really is, and certainly our diets change in the winter, absolutely. I'm a big proponent of bulk baking, or not baking, I don't bake, but bulk cooking. So I have a big slow cooker. And when I go to the effort of making something, it is full, and that gives me a lot of meals. If it wasn't for yogurt containers, I would starve to death, because that's where I put them in yogurt containers, and they go in the freezer. And that way I know I've always got a meal.
For sure. And I think lots of people do that. And The other thing we were able to do, we have a program here at the health center called Food Works, and they were producing canned soups, specially made with low sodium, really healthy soups. And so when people purchased those, because they were local, they would also purchase one, and we were able to put some of those canned soups into the food boxes as well as a donation. So that was really nice to have some fresh carrot soup, tomato basil, really good healthy soup, because so much of our canned goods are so high in the salt content, right? So that was something we were able to do. And you're right, if you cook it from a slow cooker or any of those ways, it's so much healthier, right, than all the processed food.
I remember once looking at it, it was a cup of soup. This was a lot of years ago, but I remember I got curious, looked at the back, and there was more salt. It was chicken noodle, and there was more salt than chicken.
For sure. Oh yeah, for sure.
It
Yeah.
was, and some, if you look at it, it's more than 100% of your daily need, and you will get that in one package of soup. You have blown your entire.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But homemade soups
yeah.
are very healthy, right? Because they have
Yeah.
lots of get your proteins in there. You can get your fresh veggies in there, and they can be very, very healthy and very, very hearty, especially this time of year, right? If done properly.
Absolutely. Another one of my tricks is ginger. I always have ginger in the freezer, and it is so much easier to grate when it's frozen, and then it keeps forever. Keeps forever, but. My gosh, my sweet potato soup and all the rest. And the other one is anything, vegetables that are getting a little spongy, a little funny, they don't hit the compost. They get made into soup. And very little gets wasted. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're so lucky because we've got so many partners. Like, as I said, we are able to bulk buy from Diodato, but we also work very closely with Loving Spoonful, and quite often they may have some items that they've gotten from the gardens that they have extra that we're able to put in, and that goes out with those boxes as well. So we have tons of great partnerships. That's one. And then, of course, drivers. We always need a ton of drivers. I mean, we couldn't do this project, as you can appreciate, doing door-to-door delivery for 400 orders a month. Thanks to folks like Loving Spoonful provides us with some of their drivers and volunteers to help with that. So does the Rotary Club. The city of Kingston, when they were shut down, were able to provide us with some drivers as well. Tons of different places. Lion's Heart, the food reclamation program, has helped us with drivers. And we pack these boxes at Kingston Gospel Temple. We couldn't do it without their support. There's so many people to thank in terms of supporters for this program. It's phenomenal. We have about 40 volunteers every week, either packing or delivering these boxes. So it's a big undertaking, but thanks to the community that have stepped up during this pandemic, we've been able to do this and meet the demand so far. Although I will say we have a wait list for the program because we've hit our capacity in terms of how many we can deliver each month.
So, speaking of people supporting you, I understand the Humane Society, the United Way. The United Way has been a big part of your success. In the 1 minute we've got left, can you tell us about that?
Oh boy, have they. We couldn't do it without United Way. I mean, United Way stepped up and understood the food crisis in our community during the pandemic so well. They've funded not just us, but many organizations. They have funded us from day one with this seniors box. They got the phone calls. They knew there was a need. They called us. We responded. But they provided the backbone dollars to make this program go out in the community. So absolutely, I've huge kudos for United Way for supporting not just us, but many food programs during this pandemic.
Absolutely. And on that note, I'll thank you for being with us today. Continued good luck.
Thank you so much.